Welcome back. We have an excellent story for you. It is right here, Kåre Sæterhaug. And remember, he was on the stand in Norway. And this is a quote. He says, "I am not aware of elders asking invasive questions." Imagine that. Elders don't ask invasive questions, do they? Well, if you've ever been in a judicial meeting for porneia, then you know that elders ask very detailed questions. It's almost like they want to know every detail of the story so they can experience it along with you again. How traumatic if you're a young girl or something like that. Oh boy. And believe me, they do this. I've been in it for 30 years. I was in probably a half a dozen serious elders meetings. And they were regarding various things. I was a family head, so anytime any of my family members got into what they called trouble, I would be notified, and I would, of course, go along as a family head because they expect that, because they actually blame you as the family head for your kids, which I guess we are responsible, but they they want you there, and they do it for your benefit. Anyways, this is how they do it. We're going to dive into this. This guy, Kåre Sæterhaug, I think that's how you say it. He was from Norway. He was the highest end guy. He got up there and said that. Like, that's where does this all come to? You know, when we're in court, we're thinking of this. Let's just think of this in court. I have it pulled up here, the oath that they say. In Norway, they say, "I promise and swear that I will govern in the King of Norway." No, that's not what it says. Here it is. In the Norway court, the oath taken is, I'm just going to read it to you here, the Norway court. The oath taken is typically a promise to speak the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God. So it's very similar to the U.S. court system, the Canadian court system. When you swear that oath on the Bible, you're swearing to speak the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God. Now, if you're, I got to go back here. If you're Kåre Sæterhaug, think of this guy. He's the highest elder in Norway. He's up there in the branch office. He's been at it since 1991. Elder, branch office stuff. And all these they all belong to congregations, so this is not new to them. But he has to take that oath. He has to, there in Norway, speak the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So when I think of that, like if you say, he could say, I promise to speak the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Well, so help me God, you're God. And like he's thinking that, right? It's not his God. He gets caught up in the God thing. He didn't make an oath to Jehovah. Like he justified it in his own brain. And if you ask those, or rather than making it a promise or a statement, ask it as a question. In his brain, they want me to speak the truth? Well, he can't. You see, he's under strict rules to use theocratic warfare when you're in court, because you could bring harms to Jehovah's name. That's how they view it, Jehovah's name. But it's really the watchtower. Jehovah, the God of the universe, couldn't really give a rat's behind. But anyways, let's get into it. Avoid JW did a really good job in bringing this to light. They made an article on that. They kind of rhymed it as care aware. It's kind of an embarrassing spot to be in, I think. One of the head guys in the board, in the Scandinavian board, that's what it says here. But he's a member of the board of the Jehovah's Witness in Norway. This is a picture of him in court in Norway. And that was the last day he was on the appeal, and they lost against their loss of the state funding. We don't know if they lost. We'll know in 4 weeks. But anyways, he was asked by the court if some persons may have experiences of very detailed and unpleasant lines of questioning in their judicial committee meetings. And he claims he's not aware of anything. That's what he just stands. He's not aware of this. So all of the ex-Jehovah's Witnesses that got up and gave their testimony, they were talking about how it was in these judicial meetings, and it was a very traumatic experience. So here in Oslo, Norway, despite being one of the highest ranking elders in Scandinavian and having many years of judicial process, Kåre Sæterhaug made the shocking claim that he was not aware that members of Jehovah's Witnesses have faced very detailed and unpleasant lines of questioning relating to their sexual behavior by a group of 3 or more elders. And if you appeal it, there's 6 elders in a judicial committee. And he claimed that the elders only ask if the person had sex. And we all know that that's not true, and he knows it's not true, but he said it under oath at the same time. So where does this telling the whole truth, nothing but the truth, how do you justify that? And that's, to us, on the outside, that's a blatant lie. It's just shocking when we see this. So let's look at the evidence to make sure that we know this guy's an elder. Exhibit A, it says here he's been an elder at the headquarters since 1991, so he's been at her for a lot of years. 91, that's 9 plus 24 would be what? 33 years. 33 years. Wow, he must have got in there when he was 11. He doesn't look that old, really. Or maybe I'm just really old. Anyways, let's carry on. Pay attention to yourselves and to all the flock is the first elders textbook that put elders' activities into a book. And prior to this, it was provided as a training material in various units. I didn't know that. Now, these units have been collated and placed into this single publication for elders, and this publication was in use by the bodies from 1991 until it was replaced in 2010. Interesting. I did not know that. Now, Kåre Sæterhaug has been at the Norwegian headquarters since 91, and he became an elder well before 2010, and so would be very familiar with this publication. And he would also be aware that Jehovah's Witness elders need to ask probing questions when determining if porneia has been committed. And this is made explicitly clear in this publication on page 112. Probing questions, this is right from the Elders book. I'm going to highlight it right there. I can blow this up for you guys. There. Okay, so I'm going to highlight this right from the Elders book. And this is what it says. Probing questions should not go into needless details, especially in regard to sexual misconduct, unless it is absolutely necessary, such as in determining whether porneia had been committed. You see, most judicial meetings are about porneia, some sex thing, and it's always necessary. It's going to always be absolutely necessary. Now, therefore, as an elder, Kåre lied. He is aware that the elders do ask detailed and unpleasant questions of Jehovah's Witnesses, particularly if they are trying to determine whether porneia was committed. And what he might not be aware of is how this has had a detrimental effect on the victims of this form of questioning. Why? Because he and his colleagues ensure that those who are expelled are not spoken to. It would never occur to him to ask disfellowship members how they felt after a judicial process, how their line of questioning might have affected them, or why they might never want to return after going through such a horrendous experience. That's what they should be doing a follow-up to figure out if they're doing a good job. But you never hear that. Once you're disfellowshipped, you're worse than the world. You're as good as dead to them until you're worse than a person of the world. So it goes on to say Jehovah's Witnesses define porneia as sexual activities forbidden by God. It includes adultery, prostitution, sexual relations between unmarried individuals, homosexuality, and bestiality. And this is the book, Pay Attention to Yourselves and to the Flock. That's what it looks like. I'm going to blow it down there a bit. So that's what, you've probably seen that. I seen that book a lot. You'd see the outside cover. The elders would all have one. Now, you'd never get to look inside. It's secret. Now, in 2010, the publishers of Jehovah's Witness Secret Manual for Elders developed a revised edition. Okay, so we're going to look at the 2010 edition here for the Secret Elders Manual. And it would have been familiar with the other one that we're looking at. But here it says on page 90, paragraph 5, the Judicial Committee should first seek to establish the facts. So there's a lot of questions, because they got to ascertain the attitude of the accused. And there's a lot of questions, and they come at you from 3 elders. I know this from experience personally. I was disfellowshipped for porneia. And yeah, they come at you from 3 angles. And then the other person involved is actually out in the hallway. So, they're going to try to catch you on a lie, right? Anyways, it's very humiliating. Now, this requires skillful and discreet questioning, and they don't do that at all. There's none of that. But anyways, that's what they're saying in their elders book. Now, what this means is they feel they're using skillful and discreet questions, but it's not. Now, the Judicial Committee should be thorough. So in order to be thorough, you need to ask lots of questions. But it says, but not inquire about needless details. That's what they're saying, especially in regard to sexual misconduct. However, there's always a however, right? In some instances, in all instances, when scriptural freedom to divorce and remarry may be an issue, details may need to be clarified. They even want you to get a private eye detective to stuff like that. And when the elders on the Judicial Committee feel that they have a clear picture, they may excuse the accused from the room and discuss the case and the individual's repentance or lack thereof. So that's how they do it. There's a lot of questions. Let's talk about this. This is further evidence that Kåre lied. He would have been well aware that there are instances when details matter in cases that involve divorce and remarriage. And additionally, the very fact that the book says the Judicial Committee should be thorough but not inquire about needless details indicates that elders were doing exactly that. They were inquiring about needless details. You see, if they weren't inquiring about needless details, they wouldn't have had to put it in the book. So they knew it was a problem. Elders just get in there and they just hunger. Some elders just hunger for details. So anyways, such details were described in open court where Kåre was in attendance. And if he was not aware before, he is aware now. But unfortunately for those victims, he sees them through the lens of a high control group, and he cannot accept that they are telling the truth. The irony of this fact would be lost on him. There's a shepherding the flock. This is another picture that I've seen on elders' books. This must be the next one we're going to look at. This is shepherding the flock. It's a 2nd edition of their secret elder book. Exhibit C, 2019. Starting in January 2019, Jehovah's Witnesses replaced the 2010 Shepherding Elders Manual and letter to the body of elders with a new Shepherd Elder Manual. Confusingly, it has the same title as the second version, Shepherd the Flock of God. And curiously, the copyright of the publication is not owned by the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society of Pennsylvania. Instead, Watchtower Bible and Tract Society of the Republic of Korea owns the privilege. Yeah, blame it on those Koreans. You're in a U.S. court, right? This indicates three things. Jehovah's Witnesses can assign the copyright of any of their publications to any of their legal entities as they see fit. The world headquarters of Jehovah's Witnesses in New York can deny responsibility for the content contained therein. And unwitting members of the organization who may not be aware of this existence and come across it online may think it's a false publication. So I'm gonna look at my elder's book and see what it says. I'll pull it up online here. Just hold on. Okay, so this is the Shepherding the Flock book, the 2024 one that they use today. If you've seen that, that's what it looks like. See, that's all brothers from. Doesn't look like there's any Korean brothers there. Not at all. It's all just U.S. brothers. Okay, so what does it say here? There it is. Watchtower, Bible and Tract Society of the Republic of Korea, Incorporated Association. But it does show that it shows that they publish it in Walk Hill, New York. So then they take it back to Walk Hill, New York, and they print it out of their printers. But it's they're giving the copyrights to the Koreans. That's interesting, isn't it? That's a good point you brought up, Avoid, in this. Now, the organization sure knows what it is doing. It wants all of the control but none of the responsibility. Is Kåre aware of these facts? Whatever the case, he is aware that this is an authentic publication produced by the Watchtower for the elders of Jehovah's Witnesses around the world. And this publication has two interesting chapters. Chapter 14, entitled Child Abuse, and Chapter 16, entitled Procedures for Judicial Hearings. And unlike every other witness publication where male terms, he, him, and his, are used, the chapter on child abuse uses female terms, she, her, and hers. I guess boys don't get child abused, eh? Only in the Catholic Church, you said? Okay. Okay, now on, on paragraph 15 of child abuse chapter, and Kåre would be aware of this, it states, nothing like a hot coffee to soothe the old throat while I'm doing the reading. So if you want to join our coffee club, go below and just hit it on join, and you can join it, I think, for $2.99 a month. And that goes to supporting the channel. Thank you very much. Okay, so we're going to look at this publication, this elder's book. What does it say? They're saying, though it may be necessary, and that this is on paragraph 15 of the child abuse chapter. And Kåre he'd be aware of this. This is judicial hearings. They go over this all the time. So anyways, it says, though it may be necessary for elders to ask a few tactful questions to help an afflicted one express herself, what about him? They should avoid probing unnecessarily or repeatedly into the details of the abuse. Emphasis ours. So there is no direction providing to elders on what unnecessarily means. Yeah, you're right. There's nothing there. They should avoid probing unnecessarily. So what is unnecessary? So one elder says, well, what do you think that means? Well, I don't know. I'm a window washer. Well, what do you think that means? I'm a janitor. Give me a break. You're the secretary. I clean windows too. You see, these guys don't know. They're not psychologists. It's crazy. It's crazy what goes on in these elders meetings. I could just imagine. So there's no direction. Good point. Now, the vast majority of elders have little or no training in handling cases of child abuse. It's no secret that many elders have only basic education and have menial jobs, such as window cleaning, what would repeatedly mean to such men. You see, if you're an elder and your kid goes to university, you get deleted. You can't be an elder. This organization is against higher education, so it's not like the Mormon Church or some of the others. All the other churches, in fact. I think even Scientology likes high education. High education means more money on donations for most religions, but not this one. They want to keep everyone pretty dumb. So now you have a bunch of unskilled people as elders running these congregations and trying to, well, they're involved in some of these very major parts of people's lives, especially when they're growing up as children. And that's what the Norway case was against, is how they treat the children. Now, the direction provided by the organization is open to interpretation. It's not clear. That's so true. Now, leaving the questioning to the elders' discretion can only lead to victims of abuse being re-traumatized by questions that seek details from men who have no idea what to do with these details. Because as far as I know, they got to shred them at the end. They just got to figure out if they're guilty and then send it off to the governing body on some little form. Now, and then make an announcement, of course, to humiliate the person some more. Make sure everyone knows that they have to shun them. Can't talk to them no longer. So there's a lot of traumatization involved when we think of young ones going through this. Now, it goes on to talk about this. It says, is Kåre aware of how dangerous this book can become in the hands of a wrong elder? And I'm sure if he was in court facing the testimony of a child abuse victim who reveals the inappropriate questions asked of her by ill-educated elders, he'd respond, I'm unaware. That response is the response of a coward. So that's how they respond. That's how he responds. I'm unaware. Paragraph 5 of Chapter 6, Procedure for Judicial Hearings, has wording very similar to Paragraph 5 of page 90 of the previous edition of the Elder's Textbook, and therefore I will not repeat my argument here. Instead, I will ask what needless details are. Again, what are these needless details? Again, the publication does not define what details are appropriate and what are needless. So the elders will be scratching their head and asking more questions. So what questions need to be asked if the penitent confessed to porneia? Would one elder need to know exactly what went on to determine that the penitent actually did commit porneia? Or would another elder be happy to take the penitent at their word? And can the body of elders discover the answer without asking probing questions? That's a good question, actually. Can they get the answer without probing? No. They have to probe to get what they want, what they feel they need. And with unclear direction, how can bodies of elders be consistent in how they question penitents? The people, girl or boy. Now, it's impossible. Kåre has to be aware of this, and if he's not, he's either naive or he's not fit to sit on a judicial committee that involves matters of sexual nature. What is he? I don't know. Let's look at this. Take a look at him there. He's just standing there like a doorknob, but he's probably taken his oath, maybe, figuring out what that means. But it's crazy when you really think of how these guys talk in court. And it's no wonder he's being cross-examined by Avoid JW and many others. Now, if he's either naive or he's not fit to be involved in a judicial committee, to answer like he did, and indeed, what elders are fit to sit in on a judicial committee to judge others when they're also ill-equipped to deal with such complex matters? Well said. I agree. They're looking at a Bible to deal with the psychology of people. There's a lot of suicides in this organization, especially because of the shunning. Now, this is the Shepherding the Flock book that I showed you, the 2024 one, the one I have. Now, looking at exhibits A, B, and C, it's clear that the elders are given discretion as to how they are to question penitents, and they are not told, do not look for details of a sexual nature from penitents. They're not told that. That's not in the book right here, right? And you see, if they did tell them that, then they wouldn't look for details. It'd be clear, right? So it goes on to say that's clear direction. Yeah, I agree. That's clear direction. So instead, they are given ambiguous direction. So here's what they're given. Do not inquire about needless details. Like, that's very ambiguous. What's needless details? Okay, that's what a court would ask. Now, those needless details are left to the discretion of the elders. Unfortunately for the victim, some use less discretion than others, and Kåre wouldn't be one to admit that the process defined and implemented by his beloved governing body is an inherently flawed one. Instead, he's willing to stand in front of a court and lie, not tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth, the whole truth, so help me God. That's not there, Kåre. Hey, that rhymed. Like the very book that he gets his direction from, his responses were vague and ambiguous. Instead of saying elders do not ask and have never asked invasive questions, which by the way, he couldn't say that because that would really be just demonstrably false. He says, I'm paraphrasing. so avoid JW's paraphrasing, the writer is paraphrasing this. And I'm not aware of elders asking invasive questions. That's what he says. We simply ask if the person had sex. That is how deep the elders dig. This is in quotes here. So that came from court. I'm not aware of the elders asking invasive questions. We simply ask the person if they had sex, and that's it. So if you've been, I appreciate hearing from you, the audience, if you've been disfellowshipped. Is this how it is? You don't have to give details, but just say, I don't know, just give this guy a thumbs down or something. It's not the way it is. In the comments, it helps the audience to see that, this is a false statement. I'm not aware of elders asking invasive questions. Have you ever been asked nothing but invasive questions? Yeah, okay, so from my experience, this is a complete lie. And I've been, like I said, in at least a half a dozen elders meetings involving serious wrongdoings. Now, if that was as far as the elders dig, then the rest of us have had a perverse elder body conducting our judicial committee meetings, right? If that was as far as the elders dig, was just ask that question, did you have sex or not, and that's the end of it, then you and I, we've had some very, very perverse elders running our meetings. Maybe he doesn't know about that. I don't know. Maybe let us know in the comments. Now, what safeguards are in place to prevent elders from going rogue? There are none. Victims of Jehovah's Witnesses' judicial processes have no means to have incorrect judgments reversed. It's never been done. Once the announcement is made that you're no longer one of Jehovah's Witnesses, it's written in heaven. There will never be an investigation into how the body of elders handled a judicial meeting. There will never be a body of elders coming to ask you how you thought about how they handled your case. And there will never be an elder asking if you thought their line of questioning was invasive or detrimental to your emotional health. They'll never do it. Because you're dead at that point. They're never going to reach out. They might come and see you once a year, see if you want to come back to the meetings. Now, either they don't care or they don't care enough to consider anything beyond the pages of their secret manual. And I would say they're so far into the cult, they got their heads so far up that cult, that those 11 men, they just consider those guys like God. They consider the watchtower to be more important than the Bible. And they're told to obey the governing body over the Bible in that book. Now, the only truth is that Kåre has no care to seek out and make himself aware of the harms he causes to Jehovah's Witnesses in their inherently flawed judicial process. And he definitely doesn't lose sleep over the harm he and his colleagues cause. And if he did, he'd have handled the matters very differently in court. So, well said, avoid JW. And I'll put a link to this in the descriptions of this video. And if you link on here, you can get your own download to the Secret Elders Manuals right here. You can get the 2019 one. You can get it in your language. You might be able to get the 2024 one because I went onto their site and got it. You can get the Shepherding the Flock, the older books, and you can get the Paying Attention to Yourself. So you might be involved in a court case or something. You need to look over this book. You can get this all on Avoid JW. And we want to give a special thanks to the writer of this article. It's written by Mr. Naja. I hope I said that right, Naja. And it was published, just recently published here, just the 15th, just a couple of days ago. Okay, well, thank you very much, Naja and Avoid JW. And we'll see you guys on the next video. And until then, keep living your life with love. Bye for now.